There are many decisions on which file format we choose for display on websites, and a big factor has to do with the type of image we use. We have photos, icons, logos, infographics, and other forms of shapes and designs, and our choice may affect whether we choose JPEG, PNG, or SVG. Let's begin with JPEG. We use JPEG for photos. Why? Because JPEG is the only format that allows us to control the quality of the image. This is important because if we use a photo at full quality, the file size will just be unusable on websites. By reducing the quality setting, but still making sure the image displays well, we reduce the file size of the photo. This feature of JPEG we refer to as lossy. We say JPEG is lossy as it allows for image compression, affecting the quality and thereby affecting the file size. We also use JPEGs for any high-detailed image. Look at this colorful gradient. Exporting it as a PNG will render a file size of about 361 kilobytes, compared to the JPEG at 227 kilobytes. But that's not all. Remember, we can reduce the quality of the JPEG to 50%, still leaving the image looking good, ending up with a file size of less than 40 kilobytes. There is one major exception where we don't use JPEG for photos, and that is transparency. JPEG does not do any transparency. To retain transparency, you have to use PNG. So what have we learned about JPEG? It's a lossy pixel-based format. Because we can control the quality via compression, it's suitable for photos and other high-detailed images. Whenever you need a transparency aspect to your photo, though, JPEGs won't work. Then we go for PNG. And speaking of PNG, whereas JPEG is a lossy format, PNG is not. We say PNG is lossless. That means you cannot control the quality of PNG. This makes PNG a very bad choice for high-detailed images, such as photos, as the file size would just be staggering. The only exception is when we need a photo with some form of transparency. Then you have to use PNG, as JPEG cannot render transparency. Due to this ability of PNG to work with transparency, we also use this format for icons, infographics, and logos. The way we apply them on websites usually requires some form of transparency. And due to the lossless nature of PNG, we also prefer this format for simple images that contain text, like logos. The PNG format will display the text clearer than a JPEG image would. To round up then the discussion on PNG, PNG is a lossless, pixel-based file format that retains high quality, making it suitable for simple images such as icons, logos, and text work. It is also used for photos that have transparency elements, as JPEG cannot render transparency. SVG used to be the unsung hero of the three, but it's gaining immense popularity in the last couple of years as it is scalable and not resolution dependent, making it ideal for images such as icons, logos, and simple graphics, thereby speeding up website load time due to the small file size of these images. To understand the benefits and limitations of SVG, let me show you 3 examples. Here I have 3 images in PNG format. The first is this one with 2 tints of blue, one on the left and one on the right. Note, there are only 2 colors present in this image, a dark blue and a lighter blue. This second image is a gradient of the first 2 colors. We applied the same 2 blue colors as in the first image, but making this gradient is far more complicated as it renders in between the 2 shades various tints and shades of the 2 blues. The third image is a colorful gradient combining 4 main colors: blue, red, yellow, and green. And again, as with the previous photo, you understand that though we've only used 4 colors, that in reality, The amount of various color shades and tints in between on this image makes it huge. Now I'm going to render these photos one by one to SVG, and then we see what happens. For the first image, the SVG basically identifies two shapes, namely two squares, each with a single color fill inside. The result is a very small file size, making it smaller than PNG. For the second one, things changed drastically. Once rendered to SVG, you will see we lose the entire concept of a fluid gradient. SVG struggles with gradients and groups them into color shades closely related, and then creates shapes for each comprising out of points, lines, and curves. Not only does it not match the look of the PNG version, the output SVG file size is now in fact larger than PNG. And then the final one, well, you should already have some inclination of what is going to happen once we render this image to SVG. The algorithm needed to render this image is far, far more complex than the first image, and as such increases the file size, making the PNG file smaller than the SVG. That's why we say SVG is suitable for simple images, focusing on line-based concepts such as logos, icons, and shapes. One area where SVGs are usually used in page builders is the popular section dividers. These are simple line shapes, making SVG the suitable candidate. Finally, remember, you can only use SVG if your theme and builder allow the usage of the SVG format, or if you install a plugin that can handle the file format. In short, SVG is a lossless algorithm allowing for it to be infinitely scalable. It's most useful for images that aren't high-detailed and renders simple shapes, such as icons, logos, and standard shapes. The more detail the image contains, the less useful SVG becomes in terms of file size. So what are the takeaways for this tutorial? JPEGs are best used for photos and high-detailed images, except any image that requires transparency. PNG is used for photos that require transparency, logos, icons, and infographics. SVG is preferred for logos, icons, and infographics unless the image is too complicated and increases file size, in which case we will opt for PNG. And now that we've covered most of the technical stuff, let's get practical. In the following video, we will look at the best considerations for favicons, those small little images you see on website browser bookmarks and window tabs.